Hi, my name's Kevin Randfeld, and welcome to Choices Unlimited. In Choices Unlimited, we're all about getting you the tools you need to make wise choices, particularly pertaining to drugs, alcohol, and violence. However, it can be used to make any kind of choices, including choices with life, choices with school, choices with what kind of activities you'll participate in. So let's get started. First of all, let's play our little game. We're going to play this game called Would You Rather. Would you rather kiss a toad or eat liver? Give you a second to think about it. Would you rather lose your eyesight or your hearing? Would you rather have shoes that were too tight or shoes that were too big? Would you rather have holey socks or holey underwear? Would you rather have an argument with your best friend or an argument with your parents? Would you rather miss recess or miss lunch? Would you rather hug a porcupine or hug a girl? Now, in our little game that we just played, there's probably not the greatest choice in the world. You kind of have to choose the lesser of two evils, don't you? And that's kind of how the game is supposed to be. But today, we want to talk about violence. Violence is a lose-lose situation. Nothing good can ever come from violence. Violence leads to anger. Anger leads to hate, and we live in a world where it is evident nothing good comes from hate. So we're going to look into and delve into violence and see how we can stay away from this if we know that violence is a lose-lose situation. How many of you want to win? How many of you want to win your basketball game? How many want to win your cheerleader competition or your dance competition? Of course. How many want to win the spelling bee? We all want to be winners. None of us want to lose. And violence is a way that everyone loses. So let's look at violence today and just learn a little bit more about it and how we can stay away from it. First of all, what is violence? Violence is a destructive action that is directed toward people or things. Now, there's different kinds of violence, and we want to talk about what those kinds of violences are. Personal violence is one kind of violence. Personal violence can be broken into three different categories. Verbal, such as name-calling or put-downs. Non-verbal, dirty looks, gestures, stares. Or physical violence. Physical violence is probably one that we're most common to us, hitting, pushing, poking, that sort of thing. Any of this sound familiar? If we knew someone that did these kinds of things to people, what might we call them? A bully, right? You know, the dictionary defines a bully as a cowardly person that terrorizes weaker persons. Bullying is when someone uses their words or actions to make another person fear for their safety. It usually happens when someone uses their position, their power, maybe even their size or strength to hurt or humiliate someone. Now, with all that in mind, bullying comes in a lot of different forms, doesn't it? Maybe you can think of some examples of what bullying is. Some examples that I can think of is teasing, maybe laughing at, maybe whispering, telling lies about someone, name-calling, intimidation, pushing, tripping, hitting, threatening, hurting. All of these are examples of bullying. Now there's another type of bullying that I'd like to talk about as well. It's called cyberbullying. This is a kind of bullying that we just recently started seeing in the long line of bullies. Does anyone know what this is? You see, it's when people use phones or email or even the internet or Facebook to spread rumors or lies about people. and send them mean or even threatening messages. Bullying can take the fun right out of any place we are, can't it? If someone is bullying us and we're going to see them somewhere, what happens? Yeah, we don't really want to go there anymore, right? We don't want to go to the school, maybe the movies, maybe parks, that sort of thing. And cyberbullying, it can even reach you right in your privacy of your own home. So why bully? One thing that can really help us to deal with bullies is understanding a little bit more about them. What do you think causes someone to be a bully? Nobody is born a bully. In my line of work, I've worked with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people. And I've never met a bad person. I may have met people that have maybe made some bad choices, but I've never met a bad person. Circumstances cause people to become bullies. Circumstances like maybe an abusive home, divorce, maybe a big move where they moved locations, a death in the family, or maybe even jealousy. Any of these things can cause a person to become bitter and mean. And sometimes people bully others because they feel bad inside. Sometimes because of those circumstances that we just mentioned. And they don't know what to do with those feelings, so they take it out on other people. Some bullies can come from families that fight and don't deal with their anger in a very healthy way. A young person that lives in that kind of environment might just think that's how everyone deals with problems. And that's how to communicate. So they might not understand how their actions are really affecting other people that don't come from that kind of family background. Many times, bullies can put on a big show of how big and how great they are. But inside, they don't feel like themselves very much. They may pick on others to distract from something they are very self-conscious about. Maybe a zit. Bullies, what causes someone to be a bully is important to understand. It gives us a relation to them. It's not just they're a bad person. It's maybe because they've had some bad circumstances in their life. Now, does that give an excuse to be a bully? Absolutely not. But it does help us to understand where bullying starts and how it starts. So having that understanding, how do we handle a bully? There are several ways that we can handle a bully, and some of those ways you have probably already learned in some previous grade levels in elementary school. One way that we can handle bullies is what is called the debug system. Anybody remember the debug system? Ignore, move away, talk friendly, talk firmly, get adult help. Yeah, that's one big way that we can do that. Someone starts picking on us, we can ignore them and move away from them, right? Ignore, move away, and a lot of times, if you ignore a bully, they'll just go away. Now, another situation, or another means that we can also use to handle a bully is bully blocking. Bully blocking is a way where there is power in numbers. There's power in numbers, typically. Think about it a second. Maybe you've even seen a bully in action, and you've seen them picking on somebody. Do they pick on the biggest person on the playground? Not typically. Typically, bullies pick on someone smaller than themselves. Do they take on a large crowd? Not typically. Usually, they will look for a small person all by themselves and pick on one individual. So, bully blocking is a method or a means where we can come to the aid of others that are being bullied. If we see someone being bullied by someone else, we can come to them and ask them, hey, can you leave thy friend alone? I do know that when one person comes to the aid of another, that is not what the bully expected. That was not in his plan. He doesn't feel very good about himself. And she doesn't want anyone to overpower them. That's why they'll typically pick on one person that are much smaller than themselves and weaker than themselves. So if two people come together, it's not what they planned. And a lot of times, even that can stop bullying. But there's power in even more numbers. What if 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people come to the aid of one person being bullied and simply ask them to stop? Do we use violence? Absolutely not. Why? Because violence is a lose-lose situation. We don't get physical. We just ask them to stop. And most of the time, when you use methods like Debug System or bully blocking, it will stop bullies. And if not, you can always go to the last step in the Debug System, and that is to get adult help, whether it's on the playground or maybe it's at a park in your city. There are always adults that are readily available that would be willing to help in a situation like this. We started out talking today about violence and bullying. And bullying is a form of violence. Why is it important to keep violence out of our school? How well do students learn if they're scared? How well do you think I would teach if I was scared? You see, we want everyone at our school to feel safe. So that is the best learning environment possible. No one wins with violence. Violence is a lose-lose situation. So let's do our part to, number 1, not be a bully and not use violence. And number 2, be ready to help and come to the aid of someone that is suffering from violence or being bullied. Violence, remember, is a lose-lose situation. Violence leads to anger. Anger can lead to hate, and hate accomplishes nothing good. Stay tuned for another lesson next week as we look into tools you can use to make wise choices.